Hello everyone, I'm Logan, your host, and today we're going to be ranking the exotic fusion rifles in Crucible. It's going to be a good ranking, so let's just get straight into it. Coming in at the first spot, I'm going to have the Merciless. The Merciless is a fusion rifle with chamber compensator, extended mag, and fitted stock. Its exotic perk is called Conserve Momentum, where non-lethal hits with projectiles make this weapon charge faster for a short time.
Only 5 minutes left.
The problem with its exotic perk is the Merciless has a charge time of 1000, which is a whole second long. So if your first shot isn't killing, the chances of you still being alive are not good at all. So that part of its exotic perk is basically useless in PvP, definitely more for PvE. Its intrinsic perk, on the other hand, is a little more useful. It's basically kill clip, but a little bit better because the more kills you get actually speeds up the long charge time and also gives it more damage, which is a great perk for Crucible. The problem is, without this perk active, the gun really shows its long charge time. And the charge time wouldn't be as bad if it had good range, but it's pretty average at long range with a range stat of 39. That is if you don't have the masterwork though. The masterwork for this thing gives it a ton of range and stability, which actually makes it a decent fusion rifle. Still though, the long charge time is a major flaw, and with the meta we're in today, where submachine guns have an insane time to kill and there's so many good shotguns, the charge time on the Merciless is just too slow to be competitive, and you're not going to get much use out of its exotic perk in a competitive scene, so I would not run this in trials or comp. It wins the best looking fusion rifle, no question. It's got a masterwork worth going after if you really like this weapon, and its exotic perk is really good at chaining kills, but again, it struggles in the current meta and is the least competitive out of the bunch. Next at the fourth spot is going to be the Bastion. The Bastion is a kinetic fusion rifle with a 780 charge time and rolls with hammer forged rifling, liquid coils, which increases the charge time by 40, and composite stock. Its exotic perk is Saint's Fist, which gives the fusion rifle its unique ability to fire 3 kinetic slugs, and its intrinsic trait makes it strong against unstoppable champions, which means its intrinsic perk is essentially useless in PvP. The main reason it ranks 4th though is for a lot of the same reasons Merciless is at the 5th spot. It's just got such a high charge time, and like I said before, that's just not ideal in the current meta. The real reason it's ahead of Merciless is it doesn't take an entire second to shoot. It takes 0.82 milliseconds, which is still not good, but better nonetheless. Another positive about the Bastion is this thing does a ton of damage. It can one-shot Titan shields and supers if you get the shot off in time, and within the Bastion's range, you're almost never going to have a doubt on a kill. The Bastion does have a range stat of 35, which honestly fits the weapon well. I've never complained about the range on this gun because it's just so reliable within its range. The biggest flaw in this weapon has always been the long charge time, so that's why I wouldn't run this weapon in trials, because the weapon is just too predictable. In terms of competitive, it still has too high of a charge time for me to be okay using it, but I wouldn't be totally against it, so I'm basically split on its use inside of competitive. As for masterwork, there is none. Overall, it's a better option than the Merciless, but it's still not worth an exotic slot like it used to be. At the number 3 spot is going to be the Delicate Tomb, my personal favorite on the list. The Delicate Tomb is a fusion rifle with a 500 charge time and rolls with fluted barrel, liquid coils, which increases the charge time by 40, and short action stock. Its exotic perk, Trader's Vessel, makes the weapon fire a horizontal spread instead of a vertical one when fired from the hip, and final blows with this weapon have a chance to generate Ionic Trace. Powerful foes and opposing guardians always generate Ionic Trace, and the intrinsic perk of the Delicate Tomb, Tempest Cascade, makes Ionic Trace overcharge this weapon's next shot, jolting your next target. Now, many people just see this as a PvE weapon, but I think it's severely underrated in the Crucible. First off, it has by far the fastest charge time at around 0.54 milliseconds, which is extremely strong in today's meta, which other fusion rifles are lacking on this list. Its exotic perk is pretty good too. In Crucible, all you need is 1 kill and you can jolt your next target, which can work together in an arc build. Also, the hipfire is a nice twist to a fusion rifle that you might think is a bit of a gimmick at first, but it can be really useful to kill someone who's unexpectedly close to you that you wouldn't be able to kill otherwise without its hipfire spread. The reason this weapon can't rank any higher though is because of a couple flaws, and that's going to be the gun's impact and range. The Delicatum has the worst impact and range on this list, and sadly, it's very noticeable. The Delicatum already has low range for a fusion rifle, but the low damage means even at uncomfortably close range, if you don't land every single one of your fusion pellets, then they're not going to die, which can lead to frustrating deaths. It makes it somewhat unreliable, which I hate to say because when you get this thing going, this thing can be a beast because of its super fast charge time, and it can kill a rushing shotgunner fast enough, but can also kill someone who's approaching you with an SMG, which is why I have the Delicatum ahead of our previous fusion rifles. Unfortunately though, it just has too little range and too little impact to use in trials, and as for competitive, it's too unreliable for me to say yes, but has impressed me too much to say no. So I'm in the middle for competitive. As for the masterwork, it's not good. When you collect an ionic trace, it partially reloads your magazine, which I don't understand why that deserves to be a masterwork. I do think you should try this weapon out though. It's fun to use and nobody's using it, so you'll surprise people when they see they got beat by Delicatum. Next at the second spot, I'm going to have the Telesto. The Telesto is a fusion rifle with an 820 charge time and rolls with projection fuse and polymer grip. Its exotic perk is Unplanned Reprieve, which makes its fusion projectiles attach and detonate with a delayed void blast. Its intrinsic perk Harbinger's Pulse makes multi-kills with this weapon immediately reload your equipped kinetic and energy weapons from reserves, which is kinda whatever, honestly. Telesto has been one of my go-to weapons for a long time, or it used to be at least, and I've never noticed this perk ever active. Anyways, the Telesto is an iconic weapon. I myself, like I said, was a longtime user of the Telesto. The problem with the Telesto today is its fusion bolts spread out way too far now, which means it's lost its long-range capabilities that it used to have. Another sad thing is you can't spray the environment with the Telesto anymore and get kills with it, because now they disappear more quickly, and again the spread on its bolts is not what it used to be. So yeah, I think this is a big change and took away a lot of the fun the Telesto originally brought. Now with this said, it's still a really good weapon, it's just not what it used to be. Its charge time is 820, which is about the same as Bastion, but with the Telesto you're still getting significantly more range even with the nerf to its spread. Which is huge because this allows you to set yourself up in a more comfortable range with an 820 charge time than you can with the Bastion. Unfortunately though, without its long-range capabilities and environmental factor, there's no real reason to run this over a legendary fusion rifle. With a legendary fusion rifle, you're saving an exotic slot and you won't have a delayed kill like you will with the Telesto, and you'll likely have a better charge time because that's where the meta is headed right now. So for that reason, I wouldn't advise you to run it in trials, but I'm not against it either, because it's still a good fusion rifle. As for competitive, yeah, I would run this in comp. As for masterwork, there's no need to get it. It just increases the magazine, like literally. They added a masterwork that increases the magazine. The Telesto is a good gun, I just have trouble using it when it feels like a shell of its former self. And at the number 1 spot, it has to be the Jotunn. In the past, I would give this spot easily to the Telesto, but right now, the Jotunn deserves this. The Jotunn is a fusion rifle with an 820 charge time and rolls with volatile launch, liquid coils, and polymer grip. Its exotic perk, Charge Shot, gives it its unique ability to charge up a tracking shot that explodes and burns on impact. Its intrinsic perk is a PvE perk, so just don't worry about that. Anyways, the Jotunn is just simply the most powerful exotic fusion rifle in the game right now. That's why you see it so much. The thing with the Jotunn is, when you see someone with a Jotunn, you have two options. You either focus on avoiding the Jotunn, or focus on killing the guy. Either way, the guy charging up the Jotunn is winning, because each task, you're gonna be half as good as you normally would. It takes a little bit of understanding to use the Jotunn's tracking to its full benefit, but trust me, it's worth it, because like I said earlier, you create a problem for the other player that few guns have the capability to do, and it can feel like you're cheating sometimes with this thing. Obviously there's things you can do to counter the Jotunn, but the more experience you have with this weapon, the harder and more frustrating it is to deal with. I mean, this thing basically has infinite range. It has a charge time of 0.86 milliseconds, which makes sense for a gun that has infinite range. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that this is the best exotic fusion rifle in the game. Yes, you can use it in trials, and yes, you can use it in comp. And on top of all that, it has a great masterwork too. Its masterwork gives you a faster charge time or draw time when surrounded by combatants. And it's not done there. Also, defeating targets spreads scorch to those nearby. Overall, just a great masterwork, and this is what masterwork should be. The Jotunn's infamously known for being annoying, but that's maybe just because it's just a really good gun. Alright, and that's gonna be the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Comment what I missed out on and what rankings you guys would want to see next. And if you did enjoy the video, liking the video helps a lot. It's the best way of showing your support. Anyways, thank you all so much. Have a nice one.